Well, 2024 is fixing to be nasty, but it's actually going to start this winter. Let's talk about that next here on Prepper Nation. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, for subscribing to the channel. Truly means a lot. Very quickly, if you're in the coffee club or you're one of the folks on Patreon, we're gonna have our exclusive live stream this morning. I'm shooting for around 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So please look for a link for that in the community section if you're in the coffee club or over on Patreon on the main splash page. So this morning on YouTube, we got to talk about this winter and 2024. It's going to be nasty. Call it a hunch, call it a gut feeling, call it the intuition of a madman, son. But I feel like everything is going to come to a head here around October's, and I'll explain why this morning. And then we're going to talk about what are you doing right now to prepare for it. I'm going to go over a few things that if I were you, I would be doing these things, getting ready for the winter and the total chaos that will be 2024. Because look, the United States of America cannot sustain, period. We cannot sustain our economy. We cannot sustain the social chaos that we have. We cannot sustain with the division that we have. I mean, we just can't. We cannot keep going the way we're going right now and expect things to get better. They're going to get worse. We're getting dragged. It seems like by the day, deeper and deeper into a world war. We're already seeing some shortages. Now, I've seen some creators talking about this and they're expecting famines, perhaps, or walking into a grocery store and seeing absolutely nothing. I'm not seeing that. I am seeing some shortages. I'm seeing some empty spots on shelves. But the biggest thing, quite frankly, is food inflation. The stuff I do find is almost unaffordable, and it's been that way for a while, and it continues to get worse. Inflation in general, not just food inflation, but inflation across the board on everyday items seems to be getting ridiculous, at least from where I'm at. Utility bills are set to rise this winter, and that's something not enough people are talking about. Sure, if you have a wood stove, you don't have to worry about it. If you have a complete solar setup, you don't have to worry about it. But I promise you, most of the people watching this and hearing this and maybe shooting a thumbs up, it does help the channel, son. Most of the people getting this message are going to have to deal with utility bills. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But here's the humdinger for me: 45 million Americans owe student loans and have not had to pay on student loans for the past several years because of the pandemic that went away and now is coming back like LL Cool J, apparently. 45 million Americans are set to restart their payments in October. This is why October is circled for me, because I believe October is when the blinders come off for a lot of people. You know, in October, when these payments restart, it's going to have to be paid by people that can't afford to pay it by and large. A lot of the people that owe student loans, and I've said this in the past, excuse me, it should be paid back. I'm not a fan of the crazy interest. I'm not a fan of what seems like an interest scheme at the federal level on these loans, but I do think the initial loans themselves should be paid back. This is my opinion, and I have no problem paying mine back. But I think that's when the blinders are going to come off for a lot of people because, again, many of these people are just barely making it now. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They are borrowing money in order to live paycheck to paycheck, and they're taking on that extra inflation. They can't afford to pay student loans. Where's this money gonna come from? And again, they owe it, but this is 45 million Americans potentially that all at once it's gonna come crashing down. And I think a lot of zombies, meaning non-preppers, at that very moment are gonna start to wake up, and they're gonna start to realize how screwed we are as a country, how bad the economy is as a country, because they're not gonna know what to do. So the question is, whether you have student loans or not, what are you doing to prepare for this coming winter and 2024 and beyond? Quite frankly, because at least hopefully we can agree it's gonna be a tough winter. If you don't think this winter is gonna be tough and you don't think 2024 is gonna be anything to worry about, not sure why you're in the prepping community to begin with, but it is what it is. So let's go over a list of things that I would do right now, and things I am doing right now. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to figure out when the US dollar collapses, and it's well on its way. The BRICS system, I think, is going to eventually overtake the SWIFT system. It's going to take a while, but as this happens, the US dollar is going to get weaker and weaker. What are you going to do? Where are you going to put your wealth? Are you going to, and there are really two options here. You can go with cryptocurrency, and I know there's some fans of crypto out there. Crypto is one way of getting around ESG, for example, because and it's a huge topic, we'll talk about it some other time. But when the US dollar goes all digital, they own you outright. They own you. They can stop purchases on things, they can limit purchases, they can force you to spend your money in certain patterns. Okay. And again, there are only two ways around that. Number one is crypto. That's why crypto is popular with a lot of people. I'm not a huge fan of it per se, but I know that the fans are out there. They do exist because it's unregulated. You can skirt around, the Fed coin, if you will. The other way, if I can get it out of here, and this is actually from Money Metals Exchange, and this is a 1 ounce silver bullion. All right. Very nice one at that. It's got Statue of Liberty on the front. Precious metals. And again, precious metals is going to have its fans, and it's going to have people that don't really like precious metals. I've and I get both sides of the argument. I've heard a lot of preppers say, look, man, nobody is going to be using it to barter with during SHTF. Nobody's going to want precious metals. And again, I understand where that argument comes from, but I disagree because I think during let's say a total economic collapse, you really have two groups of preppers. Like it or not, elites are preppers. Think about it. They've been building bunkers, they've been stacking it to the rafters way more than we could ever hope to. And they've been hoarding, not stockpiling, hoarding silver and gold because they understand what's coming. So you're going to have two groups. You're going to have the group that's interested in the tobacco. You're going to have the group that's interested in your beans and your rice and things like this as a barter because they're right on that fence line. Maybe they just have enough, but they would like to have extra. Okay. Then you're going to have your second, much smaller group of preppers that have been prepping nonstop. So here's the logic. Okay. If somebody has 10 years worth of food on hand, they don't want your beans and rice. It's not very valuable to them at that point. Somebody has prepped for 10 years plus, they're in long-term mode at that point. So what's long-term mode? It's precious metals. It's not going to lose value. And this is why I don't stack it to the rafters. I can't afford to stack it to the rafters, but it does have intrinsic value. When I hold this, for me, it's more valuable. If I can get it back out here, it's more valuable than a $20 bill, because a $20 bill is based on the fact that everybody thinks it has, intrinsic value. It does not. And once again, huge topic, but once that scam is over and the economy collapses and paper money's worthless, a little bit of silver will keep you fed. A little bit of silver can get you out of the country, get you out of the state. It can help relocate you. There are going to be people that are interested in precious metals, but these are people that have already handled their business, so to speak. So there is a need for some sort of, um, vessel for money beyond paper fiat currency. If we've learned anything throughout history, once an economy crashes, where you at, Venezuela? Once an economy crashes, paper fiat currency is worthless. It's not even worth building a fire with. So where is your actual wealth? Do you have any actual wealth at that point? The only way is either crypto for you crypto folks or precious metals, and I prefer to hold stuff in my hand. That's just me. So you can have other items that are valuable, getting into barter items and things like that. Do you have a stockpile of barter items? Another fantastic thing to barter is going to be your vices, your tobacco, your cigarettes, your pipe tobacco, your wacky weed or devil's lettuce, if you're into that kind of thing. Moonshine, whiskey, tequila, vodka, this sort of stuff. Um, I mean, there are all kinds of different vices out there. And if you have that, yeah, some people are gonna be interested in that as well. But again, a pack of cigarettes is not gonna hold value the same way that a piece of silver does, you know? This is just my opinion, okay? Because a lot of the items that you stack, and I get that some of the alcohols are practically forever, but a lot of the stuff that you stack, even the food, they have a expiration date, a actual shelf life. Whether it's 20 years, 30 years, whatever, eventually it's no good anymore and it loses all of its value. This is not a problem with silver and gold, and I'm thinking SHTF skill. Some people can barter a skill, but that's a very niche thing. So, yeah, it's great. If you're a carpenter and you can build things, you can certainly barter that, but you're going to have to find the right person. I personally think if that's your skill, you're gonna have better luck finding people that are interested in precious metals than that skill. There are gonna be very few SHTF skills that are more sought sought after than silver and gold, especially gold. Are you working on over-the-counter medications right now as we approach fall? Because we see the pandemic coming back. It's woven all throughout mainstream media at this point. It's coming back, folks. And if we learned anything last time, it's that very quickly the over the counter medications dried up, hard limits were put into place. I don't want to go through it any more than anybody else does. But if we know that storm is coming again, why would we not go ahead and prepare for it? An ability to produce, many of you are already doing that. Ability to stay mobile if necessary. Maybe your plan is to bunker in, but look, plans change. You may have to remain mobile. This is another good reason to, I think, have silver and gold stacked, as well as some other valuables and things. You can even go with jewelry at that point, if as long as it's real. I would sit down and I would fill one tote, just one tote, one decent sized storage tote with winter stuff. Go ahead and get it ready. Go ahead and get blankets and get candles in there, get you an emergency radio, get some maybe some chem lights, get you some batteries and stuff like this. One tote that you can just pull out should the grid go down and it's cold this winter and you don't freeze to death. Okay. One tote does not take long and you'll be glad you did it. But getting back to October for a second, I think October really is when the rubber hits the road mentally for a lot of people. So Most of us know it's getting ready to get bad. I hope. Again, I don't know why you're in a prepping community if you think it's all sunshine and rainbows, but most of us realize where we are at in the world right now, where we're at in our own society. But you'd be surprised how many people don't. You would be surprised how many people think that we're going to return to life like it was in 2015, pre-pandemic, and everything's just going to be great. And all Biden needs to do is sign a couple of pieces of paper and everything's going to magically fix itself. And I think come October, again, when millions and millions and millions of Americans have to begin paying back student loans and they can't afford to live already, it's going to begin to click up here. And they're going to realize, oh my God, we're in really bad shape here. And then you're going to see this, I believe, this blitz. You're going to see some people coming into the prepping community, which is awesome, but you're going to see a lot of hoarding, a lot of panic shopping, just a lot of desperation in general. And also think about it like this, if mandates return, and it looks like they're going to, and you refuse, you're one of these people, I'm with you, by the way, that just say, "I'm not gonna do it." How do you survive? How do you make it? How do you go into a store if you're not willing to wear a mask and do all of these things? I saw a tweet, not to get sidetracked, but I saw a tweet or whatever it's called on X now, formerly known as Twitter. What a joke. And they said, ha the government is going to eventually I'm paraphrasing here, but Joe Biden is going to force this on people, this new whiskey shot. No, he's not, because I literally need the government for nothing. They could go away tomorrow, and I would be okay. The government needs people like me. The government is funded by people like me, unfortunately. I don't need the government. I don't need any assistance from them whatsoever. I literally need nothing from them. And it's a good place to be because you're not beholden to the government. They can't force you to jump through any kinds of hoops or anything like that. But think about that. If you're not going to be willing to comply, what is your plan? Because Biden and his administration, uh, Barnum and Bailey, as I like to call them, the three ring circus, they've been very transparent about their plans. Mandate's coming back. Lockdown's coming back. They're not pulling punches this time. They're going to browbeat you once again into taking this new whiskey shot that is much better than before. There's not really a lot you can do about it. They're going to bully you into it, of course, unless you don't need the government for anything. And I know a lot of people are out there like, man, if it, I hope hopefully Trump walks, because if Trump walks, he'll fix this whole thing. And I hope Trump walks. Let me just say, I hope Trump walks. I personally don't believe he's deep state. I know some of you do, but I just don't see a man destroying his entire character, all of his wealth, his family's future, just to be a part of the deep state. They've really come after him. But look, even if he walks, he's not going to be able to fix the United States of America. He'd be one man with 4 years in office, and he'd be up against it every single day. They'd throw indictments left and right at him. They're not going to let him be an actual president. So if it's not going to fix itself and no single person, Trump or otherwise, is going to be able to fix the country, you must understand the burden falls on you. The burden of survival does not fall on Joe Biden. It does not fall on the CDC or the WHO. It falls on you. You're the person that has to figure out a way to survive for you and your family, because we already know this storm is coming, right? Hopefully, leave you with two questions this morning. All right. Do you realize just how bad this storm is going to be? Seriously. Do you realize starting in October, we're on a runaway train going downhill, and there are no more train tracks. I mean, we're just going to be sliding everywhere. And are you prepping to survive that? Are you prepping in such a way that You don't need to go to the grocery store all that much. Are you prepping in such a way that if the dollar crashes tomorrow, you still have some sort of wealth in pocket? Are you prepping in such a way that you can tell Joe to go kick rocks when he introduces, this new whiskey shot? I mean, it's just a mess, folks. We're getting ready to walk into a mess. And the advantage we have over the people that are asleep is we know we're getting ready to walk into a mess. So please be preparing. Again, get that tote set aside. Um, I mean, even not a bad idea if you're in Florida. You are getting ready to get a huge tropical storm. We'll talk about that some tomorrow. But get a tote put together, grid down tote, lights out tote, whatever you want to call it, folks. This is John with Prepper Nation. I appreciate you doing this, shooting a thumbs up on your way out the door. Truly helps a lot. And again, if you're on Patreon or in the coffee club, we're going to be live streaming about 11 o'clock this morning. Y'all take care. God bless.